Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of you and peace out to the rest of you. The blackest heart, the blackest mind, the blackest man on social media, sign of blacking and shining again. Asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. So here's the deal, y'all. Straight like this. I'm going to go in on this charge of insecurity. I want you gentlemen to understand what it all means and your own exoneration from this. I was initially going to record this and address both women and men, but I decided against it again because it doesn't really do much good to address them except in situations in which you are there and you can tell that it would do any better. But the general rule, you can know the exceptions when you come across them, but the general rule is that absolutely not. It does no good. It actually is pretty, usually it's pretty unwise to try to address them through the media. There are other times when it's the best way to do it. But I'm going to say this to you gentlemen. If you do choose to engage with a lady in regards to this accusation of men being insecure, you simply say adaptations to what women insist are far different from insecurity. Now if you want to rebut them, it's that sentence. Adaptations to what women insist are far different from insecurity. But what does that mean? Well, in a nutshell, what that means is that you started off just like I did. You started off without enough game, too short because you're too young because you were born too short a time before that point. We all start off these ways by default. We start off not tall enough, not old enough, not rich enough, not strong enough, not smart enough, not experienced enough. We all start off by default as not enough. And women are hypergamous, so they're going to consistently look for a man that is older than them, stronger than them, richer than them, more popular than them, smarter than them. Did I mention physically stronger? All of these things. When they get older, they might decide that they want a man or they don't mind a man that's younger than them. They may decide that. Maybe if they want to have power over a man, they'll choose a man that has less money than them. But in all honesty, I'm just going to tell y'all straight. When you start looking for a woman that is younger than you, makes less, is less educated than you, I used to think it might be because you were insecure. But now I understand that that's not what it is. You see, the women and men, especially in the West, have a problem with when a man has less educated, all of these things. So you understanding that you must satisfy her hypergamy and adjusting accordingly is not the same thing as insecurity. However, because the wicked witch of the West is impossible to please, and she's a problem, you actually have the right to be insecure. It's just that most of you are not. Now, one thing I'm going to say to you ladies about these charges of insecurity is this. You are the insecure gender as a whole, and this is now known. I mean, I've had women tell me, black women are insecure creatures and you just can't go around and tearing women down and no, shuck that fit. Y'all do it to men. When it's not even right, you do it to men. You don't tolerate insecurity in men, and then you will turn around and look for things to confuse with insecurity so that you can turn around and not tolerate them too. And one of them is when men finally understand and start adapting to what women insist on. You just want to have something to correct a man about. You're looking to have power over a man in some way, form, or fashion. The funny thing is, the minute you find it, your vagina dries up. So you were insisting on reasons to be turned off by even the men you've agreed to be with, in a marriage or in a relationship outside of marriage, whatever the case is. Again, men have not been this complicated. But that's as much as I'm gonna say to sisters at this point. To those of you that don't play these games, and most women listening have decided at some point they ain't playing these games on men. And I really feel bad for you because you still have to deal with the fallout. I blame you for none of it though, because you didn't choose to do it. The only things I would blame any of you for would be if you are helping most women to hide what their games are. Now, if you choose to help them hide it while you don't do it, then I blame you just as much. It's like when my students used to cheat. I had fluent students who didn't need to cheat, but they would cover for the ones that cheated. When I catch them doing it, I would call them out. I would insult them in English in front of everybody. I'd do worse. Now, if that's the case, you are an enabler. But most of you listening actually aren't doing these things. And I wish you didn't have to deal with the fallout. I wish you didn't have to deal with the pushback. And maybe you didn't. That's the other thing. Innocent men always have to deal with the effects of whatever some guilty men did. Whether those guilty men were 11 in a whole city, or whether they were 11%, or whether they were 100%, doesn't matter. However few these guilty men are, the innocent men have always had to deal with the repercussions of it. Innocent women may or may not have to deal with the repercussions of the guilty women. And I don't think that innocent anybody should have to deal with the repercussions of guilty anybody. However, when it comes to these charges of insecurity, gentlemen, I want you to understand that all that is them saying, let me guilt you and shame you into accepting me back into the mating market, out of which I've aged, or out of which I already priced myself by becoming entirely too educated. Not because you can't stand an educated woman, but because I can't stand a less educated man. You should still pursue me with your lesser education, even though I don't want you. You should still validate me, because my ego's fragile. Now, why is your ego so fragile if you're not the one that's insecure? By the way, gentlemen, other thing too, point this out to the ladies. Point out to them that the boogeyman from Baltimore, you know what I'm saying? The one that likes to call normal guys creepy and rapey, already told us that women wear a mask and that it's our fault they wear the mask, but he said they wear the mask and that under the mask are fears, doubts, and insecurities. And women have already told me before that they're insecure creatures. Flip it back on them. Let them know when they say the stuff if you really want to engage with them. And if not, just remember for yourself. Nope, this ain't insecurity. Maybe you just needed these words with which to articulate the thought, even if only to yourself. So I'm giving them to you. That's why I'm recording this. But understand that your understanding of hypergamy is not the same thing as insecurity, and don't let these women convince you of that. And tell the young men who may understand this intrinsically but don't have the words with which to articulate it so that they can justify it to themselves. Let these young brothers know. You're going to see how hypergamous they are. The older you get, the more obvious it's going to become. Understanding that hypergamy is not the same as insecurity. And one of the things is that if you express your understanding of what women want and women hear you express it, then they're going to say you're insecure so as to trick you out of the understanding at which you've arrived. Don't let them do it. Your understanding is not insecurity. They're insecure. Thank you for listening. Black heart, black mind, blackout, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual non-select male power just because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.